Okay, we're back with more Muddlore. Today I'm going to be talking about the Great Ofo heist, which I actually had the pleasure of being there for. So I'll be telling the story from my perspective as a pre-frosh in the admitted students program. On one Friday in April, I showed up to Harvey Mudd as a pre-frosh, and I said, "Where am I going to sleep?" And they said, "You're going to sleep in Atwood." So I walked over to Atwood with my host, and we walked in, and I saw this nice tree, saw a lot of couches, but something caught my eye. It was a little hard to miss. We walked into the Atwood courtyard, and I saw a sea of OFO bikes. It was tens, if not hundreds, of bikes just brought together in one great yellow mass. And what had happened was the current mutters had been going around town in trucks, picking up all the OFO bikes they could find and bringing them back to Atwood so that when you looked on the app to find the nearest OFO bike, it was just one great cluster of bikes in the middle of Atwood dorm. And over the day, they managed to get every single OFO bike in the city of Claremont. So by that point, Atwood had all the power. It had all the OFO bikes. It had all the bargaining chips. So we went to bed that night, and the residents of Atwood felt like kings. So I woke up the next morning, and I looked out in the courtyard, and all the OFO bikes were gone. But when you looked on the app to see where the OFO bikes were, there was still a giant cluster of them, but it wasn't at Atwood anymore. It was now at West. The Westies had come in the middle of the night and taken all the OFO bikes from Atwood so that they could be the masters of the OFO. They pulled a prank on the prank itself, which was now a double prank. Of course, that couldn't stand, so very quickly Atwood gathered and they came out in mass and marched over to West, and they took all the OFO bikes and brought them back to their rightful place. So this tug of war over the OFO bikes persisted throughout the admitted students program, and by the time I left, there were some in East, there were some in West, there were some in Sontag, and a lot in Atwood, but the true resolution to the conflict would not come for several months until I returned in October. Eventually, all the bikes got put back, but a few months later, I returned to Mudd as a student, and right at the beginning of my first semester, the OFO company declared it was pulling all of its bikes out of Claremont and the Claremont colleges, and in mid-October, I watched as the last yellow bike was taken from Atwood. So now you know why there's no more OFO bikes in Claremont or the Claremont colleges. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. I'm a rising junior at Mudd. I'm an engineering major, and I'm a mentor in Drinkward Dorm.
Hi everybody, my name is Becca. I am also a rising junior and I'm a molecular bio major and a mentor at Drinkward Dorm. So today we're going to tell you about the Caltech cannon. So Alexandra, how does one steal the Caltech cannon?
I don't know, Becca. Get clothes to make you look like a work crew, a monster forklift, forged work orders, fake Caltech students, and the guts to try it all in broad daylight.
So in March of 1986, a few mutters actually did just that. They knew it was going to be a really big job and that it would take a fair amount of money, so they brought in the ASHMC president, who had a reputation as a prank master, having almost gotten expelled for moving the stakes of Case Dorm during construction.
So this ASHMC president got some covert help from the administration. They got the phone number of an alum who had a construction engineering company and a promise to post bail if they got busted.
They used that alum's name to rent a forklift in Pasadena, and then they found two people with Class 2 driver's license to drive the forklift off-site.
The raid was planned for a Saturday, but the Mudders needed to pick up the forklift by 5 on a Friday. So now you're wondering, how do you hide a forklift in plain sight?
Yeah, you just hide it in plain sight. The mutters just found some road construction with equipment left behind and just drove the forklift right up. It sounds pretty simple, right?
Unfortunately, the Mudder driving the forklift crashed into a BMW on the way, and that caused issues with the hydraulic steering. Remember this for later. Okay, so now they have the hardware, but how are they going to pull it off?
So they picked an early Saturday morning when the undergrad dorm that had the cannon was off on a dorm ski trip. They decided to go in broad daylight and pose as a construction crew. One of the mutters was made foreman, and an H&M construction was born. Pony work orders were made, and blue work shirts, overalls, and workman flannels were acquired.
But in case any questions were asked, the mutters needed a cover story, or two of them. Campus safety was told that they were contracted to take the barrel for polishing, and students were told they were just moving it to get access to a broken water main that was below. The mutters then decided to add some decoys.
3 students went in 15 minutes beforehand to pose as Caltech students. 2 were playing catch and 1 was reading. So every time someone came along, they would be a little bit suspicious of what was happening, but then they looked around and saw these other techies who seemed to think all was right, so they moved along.
Of course, it wasn't all so smooth. Campus security was called almost immediately upon their arrival, but the foreman played his role beautifully and made sure the story held strong. Once campus security was pacified, the theft was pretty much a done deal.
Unfortunately, as you might remember from earlier, the steering on the forklift was no good from the BMW crash, so they had to steer by hand, meaning it took 2 full hours to hoist the cannon and get it to a place where they could back the truck in. Finally, though, the truck sped off to Claremont.
They pulled onto campus and drove into the quad. By 10:30 in the morning on a Saturday, people were getting up for brunch and were dumbfounded at first. But soon it was like they had just won some sort of football game. The crowd was mobbed.
And the attention was legendary. Associated Press picked up the story in pictures, the mutters made the evening news, the LA Times, and even radio stories on the East Coast. The Mudraker ran a special issue with the banner Victory.
However, our friends at Caltech were not too happy about playing the fools in this prank. Their alums demanded that honor be restored. They never succeeded in stealing the cannon back, but they did succeed in terrorizing the original pranksters. They even convinced Frosch to sleep with it as protection.
The last finals were approaching, though, and Caltech threatened to disrupt study period. Never a good idea, Mud. In the end, the presidents of Caltech stepped in, and Murph Goldberger formally requested the return of the cannon. The mutters agreed to return it, but to make sure Caltech knew it was a gift, they gift wrapped it, building an 18-foot-long box on the back of a truck.
They wrapped the cannon in black and gold streamers and made a huge card on the side of the truck. To Murph, with love from Harvey Mudd. By photocopying the Mudd roster, they added everyone's signature.
And the moral of the story?
Legends do exist.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that story. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hello. Bye!
Hello first years, welcome to Harvey Mudd College. My name's Ailey, I'm a senior, and I'm here to tell you about the Caltech cannon plaque prank. By now I trust you've heard about the story of, in 1986, how 11 mutters stole the famous Caltech Fleming cannon and brought it back to Mudd's campus. Well, I was walking back from Pomona with my roommate Howard. We had just done a different prank at Pomona, and he said, you know, we should do a prank to honor those 11 mutters who stole the cannon. And I asked him what kind of honor, and he said, well, we should put up a plaque to commemorate stealing the cannon, and we should put it on Caltech's campus, right in front of the cannon. And I said, okay, a plaque, it's maybe this big, and if we just put it there, then the Caltech students are just going to take it and throw it away. But if we were to, like, glue it to the wall or something like that, something completely irreversible, that would violate the honor code, and we wouldn't be allowed to do it. So we brainstormed, and we decided what we needed was a way to put the plaque there that would be technically reversible, but really hard to do. And so the Caltech plaque prank was born. What we decided to do is to build a 2,000-pound concrete monolith directly in front of the cannon, to which we would attach the plaque. We would bring it in individual pieces, assemble it right there in the middle of the night, and then once it all set, it would be extremely difficult to move. And if they decided to take it apart with a sledgehammer, we would actually fill the entire thing with sand. And so that's what we did. We went and bought these pieces of concrete. We attached them together with construction adhesive, this big tube thing, and filled it with actually 500 pounds of sand. And then we custom ordered this beautiful plaque you can see here, and it said, "Fleming Cannon on extended loan from Harvey Mudd College." We arrived there on a Saturday night at 2 o'clock in the morning with a group of about 30 people. And we came up with this alibi that we were putting on a rocketry event for some pre-frosh who were going to be coming, and that we wanted to launch some bottle rockets, but we wouldn't be allowed to just do that in the middle of the campus. So we were building a concrete cage that we were going to launch the rockets inside of this cage. And we told people that we were going to have a force sensor at the top of it. And we were going to teach the pre-frosh how you could integrate the force over time to estimate how high the bottle would have flown if we could launch it out in an open field. So as people started coming in, they would be like, what are you doing? As we were gluing pieces of concrete together directly in front of the cannon. And I told everyone on the team that if someone asked what was going on, to just direct them to me. And I would explain everything and I would do all the talking. Well, this worked well. It took us about an hour to put everything together except the plaque. That was the missing piece. And that's when everything started to go sideways. First, the fire alarm went off in one of the buildings next to us. And about 40 drunk, sleep-deprived Caltech students came outside and saw us erecting this structure. And they said, of course, "What's going on here?" And everyone on the team all started looking for me, but I wasn't there because one of the people that had come out of the building was someone I knew. So I just turned and ran away. And so luckily, H, a first year actually, stepped up to the plate and said, "Well, he's kind of salty right now because of all the fire alarms going off." And everyone laughed. And luckily, they didn't ask about what was going on. So we got away smooth, the fire alarm stopped going off, and everyone went back inside. We managed to attach the plaque, convinced a couple more people not to mess with it, and went home hoping that nobody would take it down in the middle of the night. We woke up the next morning and got a message from one of our friends at Caltech that the plaque was still there. And this was the picture of it in the morning. And the best part about it was that we'd done it on that Saturday night, and Sunday was Caltech's pre-frosh weekend, when a few hundred admitted students came to do a couple nights at the school, and the first thing they did Sunday morning was a campus tour. And so hundreds of Caltech students walked past our plaque commemorating Harvey Mudd College. And I happen to know that one of those students ultimately decided to attend Harvey Mudd instead of Caltech. So that is the story of the Caltech Cannon Plaque prank. If you're interested in doing some pranks, I encourage you to join the Harvey Mudd Big Pranks Club. We do big pranks. And next, you'll probably hear from Katie, one of the other presidents of the prank club, about the prank we did just last semester, the Mud Labs prank, also at Caltech, and a very proud achievement indeed. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you on campus soon.
Hi Pre-Fresh, my name is Mavis.
I'm Katie, and this is the story of the Mud Labs prank. Before the founding of Harvey Mudd College, the Mudd family donated substantial sums to Caltech for a new laboratory building called Mud Labs. After that, the Mudd family moved on to bigger and, well, better pursuits with the founding of Harvey Mudd College. We have not spoken to anyone in the Mudd family, but it is the official position of the Harvey Mudd College Big Pranks Club that Mud Labs is a part of Harvey Mudd College. And so, the Mud Labs prank idea was born.
weather. I'm 19 and I'm on fire.
To rightfully reclaim Mud Labs as their own, the Mudders decided to adorn the building with traditional mud posters. Every spring, Harvey Mudd hangs banners proclaiming Harvey Mudd is an engineer, Harvey Mudd is a friend, Harvey Mudd is a scientist, and many more. What better way to reclaim Mud Labs as their own than to mark it with the most beloved and muddish banners? And so, they made some new Harvey Mudd posters just for Caltech.
What the fuck are perfect places anyway?
But wait, there's more. Banners may be awesome, but when Mudders flex, we flex hard. In addition to banners, Mudders designed flyers and propaganda that could convince any techer to transfer to Mudd's Claremont campus. With Lizzo concerts, Mudd tutoring hours, and interview advice, how could any techer possibly resist? And to commemorate the grand opening of Mudd's Pasadena campus, Mudders prepared black and gold balloons. Because we like a party, you know?
On the afternoon of November 15, 2019, 4 Mudders set out to set up camp in Caltech's Mud Labs, ready to let the rest of the pranksters in later on in the night. One particularly legendary member of the early arrival team took a take-home mud midterm while at Caltech. This may have possibly been the hardest exam ever taken on Caltech's campus. At 2:30 a.m., the rest of the team arrived and the go 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 command was issued. The Mudders set to work, hanging flyers, arranging balloons, and using cobbled together painters' extension poles to hang the posters 2 stories up high on the outside walls of Mud Labs. Not long afterwards, though, the Mudders faced a threat to their plans. Techers returning from their late-night studies had already discovered the Harvey Mudd College Pasadena campus sign, and it was up to a very courageous Mudder to fib their way out of the potentially large mess. Luckily, this Mudder had a very neat trick up their sleeve. They were wearing a Caltech sweater. Proudly pointing to the emblem on their Techer sweater, the Mudder was successfully able to deflect the prank from being foiled early on.
For the next 30 minutes, all seemed to be going well. But right as Mudders finished hanging the first big outdoor banner, several drunk techers found evidence of the prank, and they clustered around in giddy chatter, right next to the team of Mudders, who had so far hung only one of their 6 banners. The team scrambled to hide in the bushes, and they crouched there without speaking or moving for nearly an hour. Meanwhile, the other Mudders had finished their diligent mischief, and so the drunk techers decided to take them on campus and dorm tours. While that was happening, the banner team hurriedly finished their work, hoisting the last banner up to hang proudly just after 4 a.m. Finally, with the outdoor banners hung, the flyers and balloons all placed, and the techers finally in bed, it was time for the grand reveal. The prank ended with the first ever tour of Harvey Mudd College, Pasadena campus. The Mudders had successfully reclaimed Mud Labs as their own, and after much rejoicing, the team celebrated with a trip to the renowned 24-hour fast food restaurant, Norm's.
That, dear Prefresh, is how Mudd came to take back Mud Labs for their own from Caltech. Hope you enjoyed watching, and we will see you all soon. Bye!